Chapter 9 Sociolinguistics Perspective.
Good day everyone. So today we're going to discuss the Chapter 9 of Principles and Theories of Language Acquisition, which is all about sociolinguistic perspective. So in this chapter, we will review the aspect of relationship between the sociolinguistic and the second language theory. So sociolinguistic, or the study of language in use, is itself a diverse and changing field with multiple theoretical perspectives. So here, we will necessarily be selective, identifying strand with contemporary sociolinguistic and anthropological linguistic, which are having the clearest impact on the field of second language learning. So anthropological linguistic comes from the word anthropology, which studies human and human behaviors. So therefore, anthropological linguistic is a branch of anthropology that studies the role of language in social lives and individuals, and communities. So, in this chapter, we will bring attention to sociolinguistic interpretation of multilingual practices and virtual communities, which are receiving increasing attention in second language learning theory, as in other types of linguistic. So, successive main sections of the chapter will deal with the following. So, first is the sociolinguistically driven variability in second language use. Then the second is the second language socialization. Then the third is the communities of practice and situated L2 learning. And then the fourth is the L2 learning agency and the reconstruction of identity. And then the fifth is the affect, emotion, and investment in L2 learning. So now, I will give the floor to our first reporter, which is Miss Sevilla.
Good day everyone. I was assigned a topic about sociolinguistics driven variability in second language use. So, introduction. Socially patterned variation in language use has been seen by sociolinguistics as one of its major themes. Are interested in explaining why we speak differently in different social contexts. Variability or optionality is also an obvious feature both of child language and learners, also and interlanguage. Second language theories, in reviewing the phenomenon, remain connected that variability is usually conditioned by multiple causes. She listed a series of possible explanations for L2 variability, while she divided into internal and external. So, internal is a mixed groupings of linguistics and development elements. For example, that a new form may be introduced initially in certain linguistics contexts only, while external is an influence by sociolinguistics ideas, just like for example, that L2 learners may use more careful and more target-like style, informal, monitored settings, and more informal. Elizaires has proposed a typology for interlanguage variability which sets out to encompass all types of variability, whether psycholinguistics or sociolinguistics. Qualifying L2 variability to make serve of the variability phenomenon, one group of SLA researchers has turned to a quantitative approach, which was originally developed within mainstream sociolinguistics to study L1 variation. Level called socially preferred or dispreferred item. So in Table 9, researchers into this tradition moved to a greater level of statistical sophistication with the development of a computer known as Barbrol. This program is based on the statistical procedure known as logistic regression. Verbal draws us on data such as that presented in Table 9.1. Verbal analysis produce the pattern of probabilities for the different linguistics and social contextual factors, which are in Table 9.2. 9.2 verbal. In this hypothetical example, we see that two linguistic factors, which are following consonant and non-morpheme, have probabilities higher than 0.50 point and therefore predict that the consonant will be deleted. Thus, we see that the overall likelihood of consonant deletion depends in this case or a communication of both linguistic and social factors. And table 9.3 shows part of the resulting analysis. It shows verbal values. Person and others have applied different version of the verbal tool to the study of variation in L2 use. Bailey investigated variability in word viral deletion by Chinese learners of English. Acquiring sociolinguistics variation in interlanguage. The Bailey study of open parentheses T, close parentheses, and slash, open parentheses D, and close parentheses deletion illustrates Romain's view that variability among L2 learners has mixed origins and that external sociolinguistics factors play a relatively restricted role. They focus on 13 linguistics variables drawn from Canadian French grammar, which is lexis and phonology. Li is a Chinese researcher, which she conducted informal sociolinguistics interview with 20 intermediate and advanced students of Chinese L2. They are same age and came from different L1 backgrounds. There are Japanese, Korean, Russian, and English. Lee identified in her data using verbal. She calculated the influence that there are differences, especially to those are native speakers. So, this brief survey of research into L2 variability confirm its complex data. It is clear that sociolinguistics factors plays a role in L2 variation, but these are entwined with linguistic factors. That's all. Thank you.
Introduction. This section we turn to a strand of sociolinguistics research which takes as its starting point the interdependence of linguistic and sociocultural development. The study of language socialization theory drew early impetus from longitudinal and ethnographic studies of children learning to talk and to read and write, their first language in non-Western, non-urban societies. The work of Shirley Brace held on children's first language development among rural working-class communities in the Southeast United States of America can also be linked to these traditions, so the concept of language socialization is also proving useful to researchers studying second language learning in the virtual internet spaces such as chat rooms, online gaming, and fan fiction. Next is 9.3.2, developmental links between first language and culture. So, researchers in the language socialization tradition believe that language are not separatable but culture are acquired together. So, acquisition of linguistics knowledge and sociocultural knowledge are interdependent because language is deeply intertwined with culture and society. So, language acquires need to acquire tacit knowledge of principles relating linguistic forms to meaning and functions. So, in the context of language acquisition, it is essential for individual to gain implicit understanding the principle that connect linguistic structures with their respective meanings and functions. So, linguistics knowledge is embedded in sociocultural knowledge as meanings and functions are socioculturally organized the integration of linguistics knowledge. So it's closely intertwined with sociocultural. So understanding, given that meaning and functions are intrinsically organized within the sociocultural context. So language is a medium through which social organization, cultural ideologies, moral values, beliefs, and knowledge are acquired. So children develop concepts of socioculturally structured universe through participation in language activities. So language serves as conduct for the acquisition of social organization, cultural ideologies, moral beliefs, or moral values and knowledge. It is through engagement and linguistic activities that children develop their understanding of a socioculturally structured world. Language socialization perspective consider the link between grammatical forms and culturally organized situation of use. Grammatical forms influence children's production and understanding based on their lexical meanings. Language socialization perspective explores the wider frameworks and socially recognized situations in which speech acts are performed. There is structured strategic relationship between language development and culturally organized situation of use acts and shiffelings. Research shows that talk to end by children in different societies is culturally organized in white middle class communities of North America. So infants are seen as conversational partners from birth. Linguistics knowledge acquisition. It means the concept of language socialization emphasizes the connection between grammatical forms and culturally organized situation of use. This perspective highlights how grammatical forms impact children's production and comprehension influenced by their lexical meanings. Furthermore, the language socialization perspective delves into broader frameworks in socially recognized contexts in which speech acts occurs. This perspective reveals a structured and strategic relationship between language development and culturally organized situation of use. Research conducted by Ox and Chiffelins demonstrate that speech interaction with and by children vary across different societies, reflecting culture organizations. For instance, in white middle-class communities in North America, infants are viewed as conversational partners right from birth. For example, it's common for parents to engage in conversational with their infants from a very young age. They might narrative daily activities or simply have casual conversations with their babies, like discussing what they are doing while changing a diaper. This early exposure to spoken language helps infants become accustomed to linguistics partners and communication styles of their culture. So it's an example of how language socialization in this context plays a crucial role in linguistics knowledge acquisition. Next is the second language learning theories, interacting with them extensively one-to-one and compensating for their conversational limitation by inputting meaning to their utterance and engaging in clarification routines. In Samoa, by contrast, infants are not viewed as conversational partners at all for the first few months. After this time, they are encouraged to get involved in different types of interaction. For example, in the Samoan community described by Ox, individuals are strictly ranked in higher rank. Persons do not have any particular responsibility to figure out the intended meanings of lower rank. Lower rank persons such as small children. This means that those in position of authority do not have a responsibility to understand or interpret the communication of those lower in rank, potentially leading to the misunderstanding or miscommunication in their interaction, leading Ox and Schiffelin to conclude that grammatical development per se cannot be accounted for in terms of any single set of speech practices involving children. Ox 1988 examines children's early utterance and provide example of links between linguistics development and socialization into particular rules and routines. For example, the first word produced by Samoan infants is generally claimed to be a taii, shed symbolic of the naughtness and wildness expected of Jidal children. And Ox documented in Samoan culture, it's claimed that the first word produced by Samoan infants is often taii, which means feces or shit. So this word is seen as symbolic of the naughtiness and wildness that is expected of young children in their society. Ox documented this is as part of the research on the Samoan communication patterns and cultural expectations. So, Ox and Schiffelins, 1995, provide further instance of young children's language productions which shows that their grammatic truths are also linked to their social and gender rules in Samoans. For example, the language offers a choice of first person pronouns including the neutral from AU equals I, me, and form ata, ita equals for me, which is marked for affect. So it seems in this case that the children language choice is influenced by their socialization into gender appropriate behavior rather than by the frequency with which form are encountered in input.
So, I will be the one discussing the 9.3.3, which is language socialization in the L2 classroom. So, according to Watson, Jujeo, and Nelson 2003, the language socialization perspective has proved appealing to SLA researchers who are concerned to develop a more integrated perspective on language learning, viewed as a both cognitive and social process. So one of the first L2 researchers to use this perspective was Paul 1992, who conducted an ethnographic studies of adult ESL classrooms, claiming that the teacher's language behaviors is culturally motivated to extent not generally acknowledged in most L2 literature. So, balik tayo dun sa ethnographic study. So, the ethnographic study, guys, refers to the study of social interaction, behaviors, and perception that occurs within a group, organization, or community. So, Paul shows that the teachers in her study scaffolded their learners extensively, so according to Paul, in the study of Paul. So, and led and directed to the whole class task as a group activities. However, in the closing stages of the same task, so the teacher praised the student as if they alone had accomplished them. So the teacher praised the student as if they are not being scaffolded, as if the teacher didn't make an effort or also help. The teacher praised them as if they are the one who only do that without the help of others. Like only the student do that. So Paul argued that the same pattern is found in the other novice expert settings in white, middle-class American cultures such as child rearing. So, child rearing, it is process of bringing up or taking care of a children, like making strategies or techniques that can help or can support the children's development from infancy to adolescence. So this reflects a deep cultural norms which attributes success to individuals rather than that groups. So Paul's studies has been followed by other classroom-based work which provides rather more evidence about learner development. Much of this focus young children, primarily school settings. So one of the sample of that is the 7-year-old Kurdish girl which is named Fusi. So this is according to Sikaitet 2007. So he traced, I don't know if she's a girl or he's a man or whatever. Basta si Sikaitet 2007 traced kung paano ang isang 7-year-old Kurdish girl, which is si Fusi ito, develop a conversational participant over a period of 1 school year Swedish reception class for immigrant children. Yung mga immigrant yung wala talagang kaalam-alam. Ayan, ganun. So, Skyty showed how Fusi gradually developed both linguistic ability and the turn-taking ability to contribute appropriately teacher-led multi-party conversational activities. So, during the year, Pussy passed through 3 main phases. So, from a silent child, because, Pussy is a silent child. From a silent child to a noisy child to a competent classroom participant. So, during the early silent phase, yung medyo silent pa si Pussy, hindi siya masyadong nakikipag-interact. Ganon. She seemed uninterested in multi-party talk. Like, she don't want to be socialized. She don't want to talk to anybody. And only attempt to address the teacher one-to-one. So, she don't want to, what's the term? She don't want herself to be involved by the other student. She only want to talk or address to the teacher one-to-one or personally, like that. So the following extract shows her early use of an object. Let's say the object is the drawing. Then the physical movement, which is walking to the teacher, kasi nga ayaw niya magkipag multi-party talk. So, gusto niya yung one-to-one sa teacher. So, expected na talaga maglapit siya sa teacher. Lapitan niya talaga. So, plus limited routine language to attract the teacher's attention. So, kita man siguro sa screen sa video, no? So, si Pussy, dadala niya yung imagine niyo lang, dadala niya yung drawing. So, siya doon. So, makita nyo dyan, may Pussy tsaka Vera. So, si Vera dyan, yan yung teacher. Ayan, yung teacher. So, si Pussy, sabi dito, she holds her drawing upraised and walk across to Vera. So, she walked across to her teachers and said, Vera, look here. And then, Vera returns to her chair, not noticing Pussy. So, hindi niya na-notice si Pussy. Nagbalik siya dun sa, kunyari, naglapit sa kanya si Pussy, tapos hindi niya na-notice. Tapos, nagbalik siya sa chair niya. Nyo na lang. Parang imaginein, ganun, para mas magets. Tapos, kasi hindi siya napansin na teacher niya. So, lumapit siya, doon, parang sinundan niya yung teacher niya, which is si Vera, para pakita yung drawing. Tapos sabi niya naman ulit na, look here, Vera, look here, ganon. So, at that time, Vera noticed Pussy's drawing and said, wow, what a nice car you have. So next, by the middle period of the study, so, Pussy had learned to produce a number of classroom expressions, polyfunctional words, simple adverbials, and deictics. So, however, her Swedish still lacked intellectual morphology, and her verb forms were primarily infinitives and imperatives. So, in this period, so Pussy now tried to actively join the group play and also in the more routine teacher-led. So, she also joined the multi-party classroom discussions. So, however, she tended to be teased and excluded from group play and had not yet mastered interactionally appropriate behavior in teacher-led discussions, as seen as example below. So, as you can see sa picture, which is, andyan yung sample ng conversation ni Pussy sa kanyang mga classmates and to the teacher, which is si Pare. So, Pare here is a Pare fair, basta stands as a assistant teacher. Diba si Vera yung teacher nila? So, Pare in this sample stands as a assistant teacher. So their conversations goes with the question. Started with a question. So the teacher asked the student about the question, what is the season? And then Pussy answered the questions. And then expectedly, the teacher the teacher praised Fusi because Fusi gets the right answer. And the teacher said that, very good, little Fusi, you see? But then, Fusi didn't like the idea of calling her little because she think she's not a little girl anymore. So that's why she said, not little, with exclamation point. But then the teacher said that, yes, you are little. You're only 7 years old, aren't you? But instead of agreeing to the teacher, so Fusi gets angry and say it again. She said again, not little, with exclamation point. So as we can see here, klarong-klaro talaga na si Fusi is lack of appropriate behavior interactionally. So, yung kumbaga yung pag-respond niya sa teacher is para sa atin ang bataw niya, disrespectful, parang ganun. Wala siyang, di man sa walang modo, pero parang ganun siya tignan. Pero well, dito kasi nasa middle period pa lang si Fusi, which is hindi naman talaga totally lahat malilearn niya agad-agad, so step by step. So dito, medyo hindi pa siya masyadong marunong makipag-communicate sa teacher ng maayos with yung maayos na behavior. Dito na tayo sa final phase. So, by the final phase of the study, so Fusi's linguistic and interactional resources had developed sufficiently for her to take part approximately in multi-party exchanges. So, this seen in her contributions to an extended discussions about the importance of breakfast. So, as we can see here, the image, so you can see the development of Fusi's interaction. So, at the first phase before, she didn't want to interact with others. So, parang she's not interested on making herself involved on something like sa crowd. She only want to talk to the teacher. Parang siya lang talaga. But sa final phase, she learned how to mix or blend in sa other students. So makikita natin sa kanyang dito sa picture, which is ang teacher is she talk about the importance of breakfast. So syempre, involved din yung other student. Yes, tanong ang teacher, nag-answer yung mga student. And si Fusi din is gano'n, nag-contribute siya ng kanyang ideas. Meron nga part dito na kahit hindi siya yung tinawag, pero siya, parang sumagot siya sa teacher. So, this is the last phase or final phase on the study of Sekaite at Fusi's learning phase. Routines and appropriation of teacher language have also been noted in studies of language socialization in foreign language classroom. So, Kanagi 1999 studied the language socialization of young English L1 children in a Japanese immersion, which is kindergarten. So, over 12 months, Kanagi traced the children's participation in 3 structured classroom routines, which is the morning greeting or aisatsu in Japanese, then checking of attendance, which is shuseki, and the personal introduction, which is jiko shokai. So, the children learned both verbal and non-verbal behavior appropriate to Japanese classroom culture by imitating the teacher's carefully staged demonstration of Japanese societal and educational norms. So, due to imitation and observation, so the children, which is the L1 is English in a Japanese immersion in kindergarten, has successfully learned or have learned or adapt some verbal and nonverbal behavior that appropriate to the Japanese classroom culture by simply imitating the teacher's stage demonstration. OTA 1999 also shows that the adaptation of target language routines through L2 socialization can take place during classroom learning. So her focus is the achievement of Japanese-style conversational alignment among interlocutor, that is the culturally appropriate use of the range of expression to show interlocutor empathy and collaboration. So the effective particle ne or na is used for one type of alignment, that is assessment or evaluation of the state of affairs, as in the following examples. So according to Strauss 1995 and Otta 1999. So we can see here at the image the conversation of Mary and Kent, where Mary said that the bookshelf and books fell at her face. So then Ken also said, how scary na, that's awful na. So Ken in this sample, Ken used the word na to align the words that he uttered. So in all of the adult classroom studied longitudinally by OTA, teacher-led classroom interactional routines including ne occurred regularly. Over time, students were socialized into appropriate use of similar expressions, and thus into the achievement of this alignment, some of the teacher incorporated ne assessment into exercises and classroom greeting routines. When students used these routines, the teachers scaffolded them with further instances as in the following example. So as we can see here at the sample that was given, where the student one asked, what time do you plan to play golf from and how long? So the student 2 answered that I plan to golf from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Well, the other naman, which is the student 1, said, that's early ne. So, student 1 used the word ne at the last portion of the word she or he utters. Then the teacher said, that's so ne, that's early ne. So, gumamit din siya ng ne before siya, that's so ne, then before saying that's early, then again say the word ne. So in addition, Otta also give a sample on turning to student interaction. So Otta tracked the oral contributions of one particular case study student. So her name is Candice. So in the early part of the Japanese language course, so Candice had the chance to hear numerous ne assessment used by her teachers, but she herself did not use any in peer-to-peer interaction. So she didn't use any ne when she interact to her peer. Ganon. So, but by the last few weeks, so when nagpass by yung time, yung days, so by the last few weeks of the year-long course, however, Candice was spontaneously including ne assessments and other alignments in similar peer-to-peer question and answer sequences, even though these are not specifically required. So she learned to apply ne or na on the words she were uttering, or she learned to use alignment not only in some other conversation, but also she apply it on peer-to-peer, even though it is not necessary, hindi naman kailangan na dyan talaga magsabihin talaga, it was not required, but she learned how to use it, then she used it. So, doon sa mga samples na naibigay ko, so, it shows the socialization of the child and adult learners into recognized classroom routines. However, language socialization theories have also acknowledged the personal agency possessed and principled by learners and novices, which may lead to the renegotiation of sociocultural context and its norms. So that was the last part of my report, which is 9.3.3, language socialization in the L2 classroom. So this part was more focused on the situational or observations of the L2 researchers to some specific persons, children, students who are learning L2 language. So they were observing them on how they step by step acquired the L2 through interaction and socialization, on how they develop their interacting skills and what is the impact of interaction to their improvement and development. So I hope I delivered it well, so I may not really good at explaining, and there are some parts of my videos, video reporting, that I get stuttered and sometimes I pronounce some words incorrectly. I'm really sorry for that, but I really did try my best. So for now, I would like to pass the floor to our next reporter, which is the 9.4. So, thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonah Marie F. Howe, and I am going to tackle about the communities of practice and situated second language learning. So first, the social linguists have traditionally studied the social roles of language in structuring the identities of individuals and the culture of the entire communities or societies. So in particular, ethnographers or the researchers have studied the characteristics of the speech events. So speech events is the instance in which communication occurs follows the basic social rules of interaction established by a speech community. Also, it includes key unified elements, and these unified elements include the use of the same language, a joint understanding of a topic and purpose. So, speech events may happen in their distinctive language and routines in the current urban society. So one example of this is a telephone conversation, a job interview, or even a classroom lesson. Also, it can also happen in the service encounters in which you're ordering in shops or depositing or withdrawing money in the banks, and that's what the speech events happens. In order to situated learning takes place, or the ideas of socially situated learning takes place, they undergo to the participation in the activities of one or more communities of practice that have been adopted by the L2 socialization researchers or the ethnographers of L2 communication. So one obvious application of it is the classroom, is the view of the classroom as COFP, wherein Tuhi, a ethnographer, took the same view of classroom in life, wherein she gathered 6 young learners, and these 6 young learners' children, over the 3-year period of their study, has tracked that the children's developing identities and patterns of participation as they progress in kindergarten to 2nd grade. So, and this affected the extent to which they gained conversational and other language learning opportunities. So, as you can see in the PowerPoint presentation, you can see the example wherein Surjit have been marginalized by peers and excluded from conversation, wherein she's drawing a dispute about the recognition to be given to work complicated, and it illustrates Surjit's non-powerful position. So look, 2 more pages. It's as Surjit says. So ethnographers or the researchers of the L2 communication aims to study the context and the events where participants are struggling to achieve communicative goals through second language or other language, while the traditional ethnographers or the traditional ethnography of communication studied the well-established stable speech events and the communities. So because of the roles of the participants and the identities as well as linguistic abilities may much more subject to change, the ethnographers or the sociolinguists and the L2 researchers turn away from the speech event and go to the alternative concept, which is the COFP or the community of practice. And community of practice means the one way of focusing on what members do, the practice or activities that indicate that they belong to the group and the extent to which they belong. So there is also definition given by the sociolinguist excerpt and McConaughey that suggests that it is the ways of doing things, ways of talking, beliefs, values, and the power relations. In short, it practices emerge in the course of this mutual endeavor. Surjit is a struggling student with non-powerful position, and she was marginalized and excluded from conversation. Even if she tries to converse with her peers doesn't care about her and her work, as you can read in the PowerPoint presentation. And it is a similar incident in Julie's experience. However, Julie's have a greater ability to switch topic and achieve acceptance as conversationally interesting participants. So, Surjit has been included, but Julie had a plan and have a ability to switch position. That's why she was recognized by her peers and become included in the conversation. So continuing to Julie's incident, another ethnographic study that addresses the adult informal language. So we're in the communities of practice, and it was conducted by Norton, and Norton gathered 5 adult women from diverse language diverse language backgrounds. Some came from Canada, some came from Poland, some came from Vietnam, and all of them recent immigrants in Canada, and they were attending ESL classes, but also using English in different environments, such as at home, at work. And there is one adult in Norton's study named Eva, and Eva was working at a restaurant called Munchies, and there at first Eva was so shy, timid, and could not approach even one of her co-workers or colleagues. And that became a problem for her because she was a immigrant in Canada and she's not really familiar to the work. That's why she needed the help from her colleagues. So, as time passed by, Eva gained confidence. Eva gained confidence to converse to her colleagues and co-workers, and they find conversational openings, joining in conversation about holidays and her own experiences of holidays in Europe. And as time passes by, she started open ups to her colleagues, and it was the same similar thing happened to Julie as well. So continuing to Julie's incident, another ethnographic study that addresses the adult informal language. So we're in the communities of practice and it was conducted by Norton, and Norton gathered 5 adult women from diverse language diverse language backgrounds. Some came from Canada, some came from Poland, some came from Vietnam, and all of them recent immigrants in Canada, and they were attending ESL classes, but also using English in different environments, such as at home, at work. And there is one adult in Norton's study named Eva, and Eva was working at a restaurant called Munchies, and there at first Eva was so shy, timid, and could not approach even one of her co-workers or colleagues. And that became a problem for her because she was a immigrant in Canada and she's not really familiar to the work. That's why she needed the help from her colleagues. So, as time passed by, Eva gained confidence to converse to her colleagues and co-workers, and they find conversational openings, joining in conversation about holidays and her own experiences of holidays in Europe. And as time passes by, she started open ups to her colleagues, and it was the same similar thing happened to Julie as well. So in the joint review of study 2, wherein he conducted the study of Julie that has a great ability to switch topics, and Norton have conducted the study wherein Eva gained confidence to converse with her colleagues and her co-workers. So they argued that the qualities that make the adult Eva and the child relatively successful as learners because of their own initiative and because of their own actions and interventions. So critical to their success, they gained more and more access to learn language or to learn their second language. And in that way, it was also a success to the social and verbal activities of the target language of the COFP, or the community of practice, or the community of practice. So in both cases, they experience difficulties. However, they also have the ability to acquire the knowledge. So another similar themes are addressed in many recent studies of transnational student communities wherein international students achieve differing degrees of integration with host student groups. So if you all know, in Holy Trinity College, there was a program wherein international student or the exchange student, wherein the host family will adopt a foreign student, and the host family in the neighboring country or the other countries will also adopt a Filipino student. And in that way, they will interact, and the COFP or the community of practice will also happen as they acquire their L2. And in one example is Vickers, and Vickers track a 6 student electrical engineers through the accomplishment of their group project at an American university. So over a several months, 5 group members were native speakers of English, and Ramelan was a lingua franca user, or lingua franca means Ramelan have a different L1, different native language. So in early months, Ramelan have a difficulty to contribute to the group. Ramelan doesn't have a group contribution to their discussions, and also Ramelan cannot express what he or she feels. Ramelan have a difficulty facing disagreements and what Ramelan should contribute to the group. So once the practical work of the project finished and completed, they allow Ramelan to demonstrate his technical skill, because Ramelan cannot show his technical skill because of the language barrier, or because of the limited vocabulary knowledge he has. And also he was a lingua franca user, and that's why Vickers summarizes the contribution and the negative and the positive aspects of the interactional process, wherein they help Ramelan to overcome those difficulties, wherein Ramelan successfully deliver his successfully shows his technical skills and her competence. So Vickers says that it was the access to observation of core members interacting. So Ramelan was observing or paid attention to his core members for him to communicate and to understand their group project. Also, Ramelan was scaffolded by some core members, and both in the lab and the team meetings. That's why Ramelan overcome, because also of his members, and ridiculed by other core members, and opportunities for successful design experiences and for chances to explain this design process. So others have shown transnational students finding or creating their own new hybrid communities of practice which enable them to survive in culturally alien academic environments. And I remembered in Holy Trinity College, we have this exchange student came from in Europe area. As far as I can remember, it was in Europe area, and she was struggling in communicating with her classmates, and that's why the classmates also trying hard to communicate with her. But as time goes by, as the years pass by, she successfully communicate well because also of the scaffolds and because also of the communities of practice. So next is the power, ideology, and opportunities for L2 learning. So in Norton's study, Norton was also concerned to investigate how relations of power impact on language learning and teaching. So in Norton's study, katong 5 immigrants in Canada, there was also a successful participant in Norton study. So first, di ba kay si Eva, and Eva overcome tong difficulties na could not approach her co-workers or colleagues, and Eva was starting to open up her life, opening up about what she and her boyfriend experiences. And this time it was Mai. Mai is a Vietnamese origin, and at first si Mai daw kay nagpuyo siya sa balay siyang brother, and her brother had a family, and also her brother has a patriarchal authority or very authoritative aura. However, si Mai met a guy. She met a guy, and nagpakasal sila and also have a child. But she also had a job, and she also had a job in order for her to contribute or to help her family in financial. So she made herself useful in looking after her brother's children. So ang children sa brother is very native in English. So at the same time while nag-alaga siya sa mga bata sa iyang brother, she was also creating increased opportunity for using and learning language. In that way, she acquired language fully, and she became successful as just like Eva. And that way, Norton studies relies primarily on interviews and reports by immigrant ESL learners about their L2 encounters, positive and negatives. Kung naka-experience pa sila ng difficulty, both Eva and Mai, also Julie, pero it also has a positive effect to their L2 and L2 learning. So, more direct evidence of the nature of such encounters kay the power relationships which prevail within them. So ana po tong ESF or the European Science Foundation na they undertook sociolinguistically oriented work and concentrated in particular on examining adult migrants encounters. So they said na they focused on job interviews, they focused on instrumental speech events like counseling or advice sessions, and also service encounters, because they are working, both Eva and Mai, diba? They're working a shop for them to help financially. That's why they also have they benefited to their work. They also improve to their L2, and that is why the evidence that given by the ESF. So another classroom-based example in which intergroup tensions and stereotyping can affect learners' participation in an L2 community of practice. So in this study, it was a Hong Kong Chinese immigrant students in a high-achieving Canadian high school. So it was a mixed language. There was a Cantonese, or the Hong Kong immigrant students, and also the Canadian students, wherein the Cantonese was commonly heard spoken around the school alongside the English. So yung mga Hong Kong students kay nag-talk sila or nag-converse sila to each other using their L1 or the Cantonese, wherein while the Canadian students kay nag-talk sila English. So nag-clash siya sa isa ka classroom. And katong mga Canadian students daw, they express frustration kay ang mga Hong Kong students man daw during class activities or during class lessons, very quiet daw sila. That's why yung mga Canadian students kay gi-stereotype bitaw gi-stereotype them as a group. So gi-interpret ko to as racialist discourse, as one of student of Indian Caribbean origin put it. Everyone in the class just sits there just like HK or the Hong Kong born students. So dapat daw ang mga Canadian students gayahon daw ang mga Hong Kong born students na behave lang, very quiet, and they don't do anything in the class. And in other classes, I have other people are on the same level, in the same way as I am. So I have something to conflict with me. So as the classes passes by, the Canadian born or the then Chinese students express resentment at hearing Cantonese spoken loudly around the school, reflecting the value given not only to speech but to speech in English more specifically. So katong Hong Kong students naman, it's maragitan-on nga to iba kung ang Canadian student think that way na nag-frustrate sila kay wala nagatok ang Hong Kong students, pero ang mga Chinese student kay they saw things differently. So napadayon Japon, pero loyal Japon ang mga Chinese student to speak Cantonese. So it triggers more to the Canadian because they have the rule to, the teacher or the instructor have the rule to English only for them to interact as a whole in the classroom. So murag na puno na ang Hong Kong students. They said na Hong Kong students or the Chinese student kept silent for different reason. Dili kay tungod na gusto sa student na dili kay tungod na gusto sa Chinese student na magpakitang gilas, magpa-adto sa higher grade. Kay tungod ana ang Cantonese na mga student or the Chinese student, they said na, yeah, I know the questions right, I know it, that's good, I can keep it in my heart. But then if magtaas do sila kamot, if sir, yes, I understand, if magtaas og kamot ang mga Chinese student and they answer the questions right, and makita to sa mga Canadian na naga-show off siya or nagahinambog gud siya. That's why Cantonese student keep quiet na lang yun, instead na i-resent na po sila sa mga Canadian students. So overall, kaning study, the researchers conclude that not only racial and linguistic difference, but also the different cultural values and stereotypes. So combined at this particular high school to keep student groups apart. That's why nagkulang lang dyan sila sa communications, and they have miscommunications lang dyan all along. So that's end my report. I'm going to give the virtual floor to the next reporter. Thank you.
A pleasant day for everyone, and to our dearest teacher, Sir Jeff Harantilla, good day, sir. The assigned topic to me was the Second Language Learning Agency Reconstruction or Identity, and I will do my best to discuss my part. Introduction. The concept of social identity was originally borrowed into second language learning, studies, and applied linguistics from psychology. A classic theorist of social identity defines it as that part of an individual's self-concept which derives from his knowledge of his membership of social group or groups, together with the emotional significance attached to the membership. So, social identity borrowed from psychology refers to an individual's self-concept based on their membership in a social group and emotional significance attached to it. So, social identity, therefore, it is the sense of belonging to a particular social group, whether defined by ethnicity, by gender, by social class, by nationality, by language, or any other means. So it represents a sense of belongingness to a specific social group, defined by factors like ethnicity, gender, social class, nationality, language, or others. So, I use term identity to reference how a person understands his or her relationship to the world, how that relationship is constructed across time and space, and how the person understands possibilities for the future. Norton 2000. In the second language learning, language plays a central role in cognition, identity construction, and self-development. So we have three types of second language learning: agency and reconstruction of identity. First is adult transformation of identity. So Norton's longitudinal study explored changes in her women participants' social identity over time, and in particular their struggles to achieve the right to speak in second language settings. So Norton's longitudinal study examined how adult participants experience changes in their social identity over time, specifically focusing on their challenges in gaining the ability to speak in second language or L2 settings. So, Norton's argues that as Martina's identity change, so did her opportunity to speak and to learn English, while Norton relies largely on self-report. That ESF researchers again provides analysis of ongoing second language interaction which illustrate the local negotiation of aspects of learner identity. In particular, they pay attention to learn, face, and self-esteem, and how these may be affected by attempts to negotiate understanding. Thus, traits to second language speakers' self-esteem can arise when misunderstandings are too frequent in interactional data. So according to Norton, Martina's possibilities are communicate and study English decreased as her identity changed, while Norton mainly relies on self-report. The ESF researcher offer analysis of ongoing second language interaction that show how aspects of learner identity are locally negotiated. In particular, they focus on learner face and self-esteem and how this may be impacted by attempting to negotiating understanding. As a result, threats to second language speakers' self-esteem can arise when misunderstanding are too frequent in interactional data. So the second thing is adolescents and second language identities. Studies focusing on the identity of adolescents' second language learner produce similarly complex and dynamic portraits. Mackay and Wong 1996 studied a group of Chinese first language immigrants adolescents attending high school in the USA, many of whom were caught in conflicting demands made by multiple discourses in their environment. So, teenager in second language identities, similar complex and dynamic images are created by studies concentrating on the identity of adolescents second language learners. So, Mackay and Wong 1996 conducted research on a group of Chinese first language immigrant teenagers attending high school in USA, many of whom were caught up in the conflicting demands made by many discourses in their environment. So, this included colonialist racialized discourses which positioned immigrants as deficient and backward. Model minority discourse which celebrated in the economic success of Asian American by contrast with African American, Chinese cultural nationalist discourses which define being Chinese social and academic school discourses and gender discourses. So, these include Chinese cultural nationalist discourses that define being Chinese, colonialist, racialized discourses that portrayed immigrants as inferior and backward. Model minority discourses that celebrated Asian American economic success in contrast to African American. So, social and academic school discourses and gender discourses. The individual students manage their identities differently in the complex environment, which differential consequences for their ambitions and success in learning English oral and literacy skills. So, in this complex context, each students managed their identity differently, which had varying effects on their goals and success in learning English oral and written. So, the story behind the picture that you can see in the screen is that Lump 2004 reports the case of two girl students aged 17 and 18 from southern China who were participants in another longitudinal study in American high school. Over a period of 8 months, Yu King and Chu Yung were cousins and were initially shy about speaking English in school. They felt ethnically typecast for fear of ridicule. The presence of American-born ethnic Chinese students did not help. So, however, the two girls started to use a Hong Kong-based chat room which was popular with Chinese adolescents living outside China. So, you can see in the picture, in this chat room, they engage in informal code switching interaction using English together with Romanized Cantonese. Lam documented and analyzed the nature of the chat room interaction, showing how the code switching seemed to facilitate the development and sharing of transnational identity which was neither Chinese nor American. As Chu Ying said, that kind of friends I met in the chat room are brother. In the following sample, extract Yuking sure is making a request of her parents' chocolate in English Cantonese. So as Chuying said, the kind of friends I met in the chat room are brother. In the following sample, extract Yuking sure is making a request of her parents' chocolate and English Cantonese speaker residents in the Netherlands. So in return, the opportunity offered in chat room to develop a positive transnational identity and use lingua franca English seems to give the girls more confidence. So that's about in learning or adolescence in second language identities. The third one is a life histories of second language learners. Some of researcher we have reviewed in this chapter is grounded in the collection of life history of second language learners. Pavlenko 1998 has analyzed yet another kind of biographical data in order to explore relationship between second language learning and identity formation on a more strategies level. So Pavlenko's research shows that second language learner experience a stage of continuous losses, including the loss of linguistic identity, subjectiveness, the link between signifier and signified inner voice, and attrition of their first language. So the stage of gains and reconstruction includes the appropriation of other voices, emergence of one's own voice, often first writing, translation therapy for reconstruction of one's past, and continuous growth into new position and subjectiveness. So, and that's all my part, and I hope you've learned from my discussion. And once again, I am Elizaires T. Madanga, the Group 8. Thank you for listening. God bless.
Good day everyone, I am Hazel C. Balanay and my assigned topic is the affect, emotion, and investment in second language learning. So the research viewed already in this chapter also suggests that learners' attitude and feelings about auto-learning may be dynamic and negotiable, and may be inspired by imagined communities that learners aspire to join in the future. So meaning, learners' emotional experiences, attitudes, and personal involvement can influence to their second language acquisition and motivation. And learning a second language can change over time. Same as with the Norton study, in the case of Martina, which is connected in the experience of Berta. So, Berta is an adult migrant learner. When we say migrant learners, they are the students who study outside their country for a period of time. So, in the summary of Berta's experience in the hospital, despite of her efforts to communicate in a second language, she struggled to convey her feelings to the doctor. And dito napapasok yung investment, which is used by Norton and McKinney to describe socially and historically constructed relationship between learners and the language they are trying to learn. So, in this chapter, it tells us that each individual's emotional response to the second language are deeply connected to the social environment in which they are required to use the language. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. So I'll be discussing my assigned topic, which is the evaluation, the scope, and achievements of sociolinguistic inquiry. This part talks about studying how people learn and use a second language differences, and how social factors affect our language. So, there are different strands of sociolinguistic theorizing about alto use and alto development. One of these strands is the quantitative study of alto variation. So, this is very different from the others. These focus on interlanguage variability at the lexical and morphological level. So, Interlanguage variability at the lexical level means learners use words in different ways while learning a new language. For example, the learners might say big instead of large, or use a word from their native language in their English sentences. So, while the interlanguage variability at the morphological level is the structure of words, so like the using of different verbs form, plural endings, like dili siya ma-align ang ugtarong ang new rules of the language of the new language, no? So it is like adding ed, no, mo na siyang morphological level. So the remaining strands deal with the L2 learning in broader way, embedded in its social context, this is the qualitative and interpretive in nature. So the use of ethnography and conversational techniques is they help the researchers to learn how people behave and talk. So ethnography helps by letting researchers live in community and observe the tradition, social interaction, while conversational analysis focus on how people talk and how people exchange conversation. So these techniques helps by understanding different cultures and social interaction in everyday life. So next is providing longitudinal accounts of the social processes of L2 interaction and development in the phases and virtual settings. So this helps researchers understand how people learn language in various places like classroom or online by studying their interaction and behaviors. So next is concepts such as identity, community of practices, investment, etc. have been vital for theorizing L2 learning as social practice in an integrative way. So identity, community of practice, investment, or how much effort you put are really important to learn a new language in social situation. Sociolinguistic perspective on interlanguage and interlanguage communication. One of the obvious strengths of the sociolinguistic tradition in SLA is the rich accounts offered of cross-cultural L2 communication. So, because it provides insight into how people from different culture communicate when learning a new language. So, next is the ethnographer's holistic approach. So the researchers or the ethnographers study entire conversation in a very detailed way. So they really study hard. They also take a look in a multi-level view of conversational interaction. They are concerned with the relationship between linguistic and non-linguistic aspect of communication. So they really pay attention to both words and how people use gestures and expressions. So and after that, after looking in a multi-level view, they already understand how language is connected to different social group and situation. So this helps language learners to use language in the right way in a different social settings. So the researchers here, instead of just looking at grammar, they study how language is used in real life situations. So next is the in contrast, variation is discussed in section 9.2. Look at the range of relatively micro linguistic features in learner language. So micro refers to a small linguistic elements that variation is analyzed in learner's language. No, so they have demonstrated that much variability is pattern and that it is linked increasingly to social factors as learners gain more varied experience of L2 use, especially beyond the classroom. So these patterns become more noticeable as learners use the language in diverse real-life situations outside the classroom, and they influenced by social factors. So the emergence of socially patterned variation among more advanced and more integrated learners can be linked to learners' aspiration to develop appropriate L2 identities. So when learners show specific language patterns that align with social groups, it's because they aim to fit in and be understood in those groups. So and thus to the themes discussed is later in the section of this chapter. Okay, sociolinguistic perspective on language learning and development. So sociolinguistic language learning. So sociolinguistic studies provide detailed description of the environment where language learning occurs. So these include analyzing speech events like conversation and how language is used in specific social situation, offering detailed understanding into the learning process. So researchers in sociolinguistics emphasize the importance of collaborative learning, that language knowledge is constructed through social interaction, like the Vygotskian sociocultural theory, which emphasizes social interaction in the learning process. Next is the learning dynamics and community impact. Long-term study track learners' development in pragmatic, functional, and stylistic aspect of the language used. These studies provide insight into how learners' language skills evolve over time in different contexts. So on the other hand, current study of L2 communication and L2 socialization offer a great deal of valuable evidence about how the learning context and the learner's evolving style of engagement with it may affect the rate and direction of L2 learning and eventual success. So the patterning of learning opportunities through communities of practice with structure and sometimes very unequal power relationships has been evoked effectively to explain learners and progress even where motivation is high. Sociolinguistic accounts of the L2 learners. So ethnographic studies examine various second language learners spanning from beginning in classroom to adults migrating, aiming to understand the complexities of language acquisition across different contexts. So sociologist perspective highlight learners' social identities like gender, ethnicity, recognizing their impact on learning strategies and outcomes. Learners are viewed in their social context. So researchers like Norton and Fablan-Kohn emphasize that learners' identities are dynamic, evolving during language interaction, shaping their engagement with the language. Identity, agency, and learning success. So, sociolinguistic researchers such as Norton and Fablan-Kohn on the dynamic and alternable nature of learners' identity and engagement with the task of L2 learning. Self-esteem, motivation, etc. are believed to be constructed and reconstructed in the course of L2 interaction, with significant consequences for the rate of learning and ultimate level of success. So learners' self-esteem and motivation are flexible traits, shaped by experiences. Positive esteem and high motivation influences how quickly learners progress and succeed in language learning. So learners' active choices and engagement, agency, and their commitment to learning, yung gina-offer nila na time, yung investment, significantly impact their language development, emphasizing their crucial role in the learning process. So actively engaged learners who believe in their abilities make notable progress. Their confidence and active participation contribute significantly to their learning outcomes and achievements. So that's all. Thank you.